Hi everyone, welcome to today's session in Managing and Developing Football in the Community. We're on lecture 12 now, Conceptualising the Event. And as I mentioned in the last session, your go-to authors for all information on event management and delivery is Bowden and Masterman. The learning outcomes for today's session will be to outline the key stages involved in conceptualising an event. So what I mean by conceptualising, it means about bringing ideas together and in the very early stages of the planning process. Understanding the likely impacts that your event will have on, in particular, the stakeholders who will be supporting you in delivering the event. So what we have here is quite a nice, neat event planning flowchart, which provides you with a clear indication of steps 1 right through to how many are there? 9, whereby you'll start from a very small the objectives or the purpose of the event, which takes you right through to getting the feedback from the participants post-event, so after you've delivered your event. So it very much starts with the objectives of the event, and what I'd like you to do now is, as I talk through this flow chart, I'll get you to do it later on as well, is just think about the event that you're going to run as part of the assessment for this module. So think about how you can align your own examples. So you might want to get into a group now, the group that's going to be delivering the event. Or if you're on your own delivering the event, then try and think about those areas that you've thought about and how you're going to deliver the event. So the objectives of the event itself. So what's the purpose around the actual event? What are you looking to achieve? The concept. So here we're talking about the conceptualization of the event. So broadening the concept and making it more feasible, which takes us on to the next area. So the feasibility of the event means that you're scoping out the event and demonstrating how it can be of real benefit maybe to community groups, how it can be more sustainable, but also, I suppose, in your respect, it would be cost effective. So you'll be looking at things such as budgets, incoming and outgoing. And at this stage, you'll take one of two routes, really. You'll either think, yeah, it's a goer, it's a fantastic looking event and we can proceed. Or during the feasibility, when you've exhausted all the checking processes that are necessary, you may think that actually the negatives outweigh the positives in delivering the event, and therefore you'd go back to the concept stage and start again. It's a really important part of the process to make sure that you don't force something that in the back of your mind you're not quite certain of. So within that feasibility section, you would undertake lots of maybe a needs analysis, a SWOT analysis. You may undertake a pest analysis. Is to make sure that the event itself is going to achieve the objective. So let's take into consideration that you have undertaken your feasibility, and yes, it's a runner. So you've checked with the stakeholders and you are okay to proceed. So now you're at the planning phase. So you've got it down on paper, you know exactly what you're going to do and the benefits for your event. Now you're going to start to think, right, who's going to do what to bring this event to fruition? So what you might do in this phase is, certainly within your groups, you may identify roles and responsibilities for each individual to make sure that each individual is very clear about what they're going to be doing. To plan this, you may plan or schedule some meetings whereby you bring each other together so that you can check off an action plan. So at this stage, you may have already had a meeting to talk about or to scope out the objectives. Hopefully you've already done it by using the 5W approach from Goldblatt, which is set in a previous session. So now you'd be bringing that back to the table as a group to share, to say, right, who's going to do what? And then you'd schedule another meeting prior to the event delivery itself to make sure that everybody's meeting those deadlines. Because if you don't arrange an additional meeting and you just turn up at the event and somebody or one cog in that in that wheel hasn't contributed or achieved their outcome, then potentially the whole event could fall apart. And there's also contingencies to think about. So if somebody can't turn up on the day and they phone up sick in the morning, then you need to know what that individual has been planning and how far they are along in the process. Moving on from the planning stage then, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a future session, but the implementation of the event itself. So what does the event look like? Is it going to be a festival? Is it going to be a tournament? How long is it going to go on for? Then the initial handover from the event itself. Moving on to the evaluation, and this is a critical part, and again for the assignment for this module it attributes 1200 word essay to the evaluation of this event, and you'll need to complete that individually. And then the feedback. So if you're thinking about delivering a similar event in the future, it's about analysing that feedback that have come from the evaluations. Now that could be you in evaluating the event through self-reflection, or it could be through participant questionnaires, it could be through stakeholder questionnaires or stakeholder feedback. But once you've collated all of that evidence, what does it tell you and how will it affect your future practice?